it's Diane, the Creative Inkster. Today is Monday, October 31st, 2022. Happy Halloween! I hope you have some little goblins and pumpkins and witches and all kinds of little Halloween trick-or-treaters coming to your door. We had them coming since before 6 o'clock, even though it's not quite dark yet, but it's coming along, and they're still coming, so very excited to see them. I had a very interesting thing. The first group of kids that came, one of them asked if we had another bag, because I think their bag was already full, so they had some grocery bags, and so we gave them another one, and they grabbed a handful of candy and off they ran. So there you go, having a good time. So tonight's card for the Creative Escape is this one, where we're going to beautifully color the front of the card, but we're going to add a little bit extra with some embossing on it, and I know you'll love how this is going to turn out. So if you're watching live, please let me know. I love to connect with you, and if you're watching the replay, well, I'd love to see your comments afterwards and get a chance to chat with you. Before I start off on tonight's card, I want to share a couple of things that I'm doing this week. So this card is one that I'm doing with a group of gals from work. One is going off on medical leave, and so we're going to have a little celebration and a little send-off for her and do some cards on Friday over lunch. This is like a super easy card layout. Couldn't be simpler. This is 2 by 5.5. You just layer it onto a piece of 2 1/4 by 5.5, and it sits right over top. 3 little embellishments on it, and they're good to go. These are pretty much brand new stampers. There might be one in there that's stamped once or twice before with me and or with others, and so I wanted to start us off really simply, but I love that layout. I use it a lot in my Kit to Go classes. And then also, this is another card we're going to do. We wanted to focus on birthday cards, and so this is a very, very simple layout, but we've added some embossing with this embossing folder. So that's another layer, and a little bit of ribbon, some more embellishments. Really cute. I think that they're going to love putting this one together. The third one I'm not going to show you because it's my Wednesday Facebook Live. So you got to kind of tune in and see what we're making, and that's what I'm going to do with them. So without further ado, I will repeat, please, if you're watching, let me know you're out there, and give me some encouragement. I know that you're watching. And let's get started with this card. So, basic standard card base being half a sheet of paper. So this was cut halfway across. So it's 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored in scored in the middle at 5.5. So I'm going to fold that over. People ask, you know, how do you score this? How do you know the paper measurements? Well, it's half a sheet of cardstock, and cardstock is your typical 8.5 by 11 in Canada, and so you can either cut it on the long side or on the short side. So there's our card base, and we need some white on the inside. At least I like a little bit of white on the inside of some of the darker card bases. And so I put this down at one layer down in, which is 4 by 5 1/4. So we'll give it a nice little bit of a border. I'm down to the end of this liquid glue, and I just, you know, I don't want to waste it. Are you like that? I like to kind of like make sure that I use it up. So it may take a little bit of squishing down here. That's lots to get it on there because it's going to smoosh around and find its way. All right, so there's my inside layer, and I'll fuss with this one later on. I'll get another one. Yeah, this one's got some in it. Okay, so now we're going to do some stamping on our layers. I'll explain the layers first. This is a card where the layers are going to go down the center. So the white layer that we do our stamping on is 2.5 by 5.5. So it's going to go right from top to bottom. And what you'll find when you cut your paper sometimes is you have a little bit of overhang. I'm just going to cut that off with my scissors when I'm done. So the white is 2.5 wide. The black is 2 3/4 wide, also by 5.5 long. And then the soft succulent is 3 inches by 5.5. So we're going to layer those 3 with a little bit of a border around them after the stamping's done, and right onto the card. Won't that be pretty? All right, let's grab the stamp I'm using. It's from Painted Poppies, which I think is kind of appropriate and fitting as we're getting into, we're leaving October and getting into Remembrance Day coming up. I'm using this image here on multiple times, and then I'm going to color it in with my Stampin' Blends. So Stampin' Blends are alcohol-based markers, and I'm going to use Memento ink, which is water-based, so that these two will work well together. Oh, I shouldn't have closed my ink pad because I'm going to color or stamp this rather repeatedly. So I'm going to ink it up, and when I do stamp repeatedly, I want some of them to be off the page. I don't want them to all land in the middle of the page because I feel like that looks just too contrived. And I also want to turn my image a little bit so that the same petal is not always sticking down. Now typically I do end up with one that's fully on the paper, but I've been talking, so that didn't happen this time. And that's totally fine. This is just my mess underneath. So that's stamped. I'm going to give it a little bit of time to dry. It's going to dry fine, and actually probably be best if I'd have stamped it the night before. But you know what? This is real life, real stamping. So if it doesn't get to sit, it's fine. It's not going to ruin the blends. I do it all of the time. All right, let's grab this. And the blends come in a light and a dark in a pair. So I start with my light. It doesn't matter, but I like to start with light because I find that can always make it darker, but you can't make it as easily lighter. So there is a bullet tip and a paintbrush tip. So they're designated by a thin line and a thicker line. So I'm going to use the brush tip. There's 3 dots at the top. I'm going to push that up. And I'm just going to start coloring. And I'm going to color all over the image. I'm going to try to stay inside the lines. Never was much of a inside the lines kind of gal, so you know why start now. But in coloring, that might be nice, might be appreciated. You know what? This is my card. I can do it whatever way I want, and no one's really going to be critiquing it. So when you're creating, try to keep that in mind, because I know when I first started, I worried about every little piece that didn't turn out perfectly or as I intended, and then I wasted a lot of paper and such because I would like toss it aside and all that. Everything can be salvaged. Everything can be how you want it. No one sees what you had in your mind originally, at least let's hope not. Nobody sees what the sample is that you're coming from. So it's your card and it's the way you made it. And I believe that someone receiving a handmade card will just be thrilled to know that you made it, and they won't be going, oh, this looks like it was made by a little kid. No, they'll just be grateful to receive a beautiful handmade card. And that's why we do it, isn't it? Why is it that you do? Why do you make cards? I have hundreds of cards in boxes behind me. That's a good question for me to ask. Why do I make cards? Well, I love the action of doing it. I love the relaxation it gives me. I love that I can show others how to make it. And I just love using new stuff. So it's a hobby, right? In the big scheme of things, it always starts off as a bit of a hobby, something you want to do. So there you go. Got to enjoy it every single moment. Even the coloring, which has not always been my favorite thing to do, but I find it therapeutic and relaxing. So nothing wrong with that. And these blends are like beautiful to work with. You do need to be careful a little bit with these tips here, with the brush tip, that you're not pressing too hard. I wouldn't press down like this, but use it on a bit of an angle and rotate the angle as you're using it. So on to the next flower, I would turn it a little slightly. And I just feel that kind of keeps them in good stead. They last a little bit longer. They're not going to last forever because they're alcohol based. There is no refill ink for them. So if you are a Stampin' Up person and you bought Stampin' Right markers before and you know that you can refill those, you can't refill this. The formulation is different. So you want to take good care of them. They'll last you a good long time. All right, there's my coloring with the light. And you want to cap these right away when you're done because they're alcohol based, so it'll just dissipate. You don't want it to dissipate all the way away from you. So once you've done it once with your light color, I know there's people that say you should keep it wet, moving it around. I don't worry that much about it. I just go back around on these darker layers and maybe the center on this particular flower. I'll just go around the lines and just add a little bit more. This time I'm using the bullet point. And it just adds a little bit of shading. It adds a little dimension. Just lightens it up a little, or brightens it up a little bit. And if you, like I just did, get too thick of a line, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix that. Because once again, I was talking and not paying attention. So I'm now going to take my light, and I'm going to go, whoops, back over it while it's still somewhat wet. And blend that in. That's why they're called blends. And if it turns out that it really messes it up, make sure that's where your ribbon or your green goes. So there's always ways around it. When I first started scrapbooking, I had that problem. I worried about making my first project. It was like, oh no, I didn't mean for that to go there. And then I learned about embellishments. So yeah, you could always embellish your way out of anything. I guess that's why we call them embellishments, because it's like embellishing the truth, right? You can embellish your way out of anything. So are this trick or treaters still coming? Is it still busy at your house? I think it's died down a little bit. I don't hear a lot more activity up there. We'll see. My son Craig is shelling out this year. I have a little extra dark here. There we go. All right, so I am done with my coloring. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to share some more cards with you. So I do a kit to go every month, and it is cards that you can take and do at home. You provide your own inks, blocks, and stamps, but this set is made with our memories and more cards. So there is no stamping in this class at all. Anybody can do this. You're going to get the cards, you're going to get the pieces cut. There's a beautiful piece of vellum on this one and some ribbon and embellishments. So that's card number 1. There are 8 cards in this. Check it out. This is card number 2. There's some stickers that go with it. Card number 3, these are actually little stickers, these squares, but we're going to pop them up on dimensional so that they're a little bit more recognizable right off the page. And some ribbon and layers. This one's a bit of a fun fold. Woo! Woo! There we go. So everything beautiful starts with love. So how lovely would that be with congratulations for a wedding card or a new baby card, even anything that begins with love. Sending good vibes. So when you're thinking of somebody, this card pack is so perfect. So then you will need to add a greeting here unless you just want to keep this one blank. I've added a happy birthday on a tag. So in the kit I will include this label and then you can go and add one if you like. Here's a thank you card. Beautiful gold accents. And these cards are bigger than our standard card base. They're 6 1/4 by 4 1/4, and they're designed for the Memories and More card packet. So they have matching envelopes, which are really pretty because they have this on the inside. And then here's my 8th card. Super cute, super easy. And so how much would you pay for this class? Well, let me tell you. This class is $25 for all 8 cards, or it's only $10 if you place a minimum $40 order with me. So if you want to get in on this deal, you let me know. I can ship it anywhere in Canada, and shipping will be extra, but definitely get that class to you. All right, let's go back to our card, which is nicely dry now. And this is a bit of magic I'm doing. So I did my stamping, and then I added some embossing. I ran this white piece that I colored in. I ran it through with my, not this one, but let's use this one, what the hey. I'll use the timber. I meant to use Time Worn, but that's fine. Use this embossing folder right over your stamped images. You can also use embossing right over your, sorry, it's going to wiggle a bit because this is all on the same table, right over pattern paper as well. So the same technique applies to both. And here we go. Look at that. Texture on texture. Gotta love it. All right, now we're going to add this to the black. So one thing you'll notice about your Stampin' Blends, when you color, it's going to bleed through. So not the thing you want to be coloring your envelopes with, because then you'll see that bleeding through. Or on a single layer in white, you would see it showing through. So always good as a layer, but it's such a porous, beautiful color that you're going to get it going right through. So just a little heads up. If you're layering it onto black or another color, you're going to be just fine. So I like to shore this up by standing it on the table so I know that my layer end to end is the same. It's in the same direct spot. Oh, I love this. I'm glad I made that mistake because this embossing folders turned out great. I don't think I've used timber in a little while. Perfect. A perfect happenstance. All right, so now this is going onto the 5.5 by 3 inch soft succulent layer. And you kind of eyeball the left to right, stand it up this way, and it's dry. I'm going to add this to here, the front of the card, and then I just peek around to see, is it too long? I might take it to my trimmer and cut that off, but I think I'm just going to use my scissors lined right up against the card. Sometimes when you cut that little 1/64 of an inch or 1/32 of an inch shows up extra on one layer, and you end up with it being just a titch longer than, say, your folded card. There we go. Oh, I meant to put ribbon on there. Okay, well, we'll change that up too. I meant to put ribbon around, but I think instead we'll just put a bow. All right, so, well, I'm going to let this dry. It's all straight, but I'm going to let it dry before I try to cut it off. Now, my greeting this time is going to be with deepest sympathy. Both of the ones, the happy birthday and the one I'm going to use tonight, come from Peaceful Moments. It kind of matches this poppy, painted poppy stamp set. They kind of were sold as a bundle together. And these greetings, the sympathy, birthday, thank you, and thinking of you with all my heart, kind of tend to fit in the same size of punch, if depending on the punch that you use. So it's a versatile size. They're kind of rectangular, if you will. But I'm going to use a bit smaller punch. I'm going to put it in this way, so I have the most amount of room for my maybe getting it incorrectly placed. So great with our punches is you slide it right in. You can see exactly where it's going to cut out, and you punch. This one has a little extra hole and an extra slat here that you could put this back into here and make it a tag by punching the end either way. So that's what's neat about that one. All right, back to our card. Let's get the scissors out here. It's really not a big excess, but it is a bit of excess. Oh dear, it's a bit gooey. It's a bit gluey. There we go. There we go. All right. Perfect. Took that off. Now I'm going to take my greeting and I'm going to figure out, where's the best spot for it. I think there, and I've got this black and white gingham check, which is pretty for a bow. And instead of wrapping it around this time, I'm just going to put a little bow. I almost think it doesn't need it, that? Actually, when I look at it, I think maybe for a sympathy card, I don't want to put ribbon on it. But I'm going to layer my greeting. So this is something I do a lot with my classes, and that's that I punch it out a second time in a layering color, so a darker color maybe than my greeting is on. Something complementary. And then I cut it in half. I don't even have to be all that precise because I'm going to build this as a little layer behind it. So let's grab our glue. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. That's just about out. So put a little bit on this side and a little bit on this side. A little dab will do you with a little bit of liquid glue, let me tell you. I think this is a really pretty card. And then I'm just going to line this up so that I get a layered look on one side, and then I'll go over and do the same on the other side, like so. Now it's going to be, give you something to compare against. It's going to be straight across the top and the bottom. There's no black showing on there, just the right and the left, but it gives the illusion of a completely layered matted piece. So we are ready to put this down on the card. Super easy, super cute. Oops. And that'll go there. And then normally I would put some kind of embellishment, but now that I've decided to go with sympathy, I'm going to switch from the gold that I used on this one to the black matte dots. I just feel like it's a more serene color. It might be a little bit more suitable for a sympathy card, but still allows me to add some more dimension with bling, if you will. Oop. I'm going to put these in the center of my poppies. I've got to be honest, I'm not much of a floral connoisseur, so I don't know what a poppy looks like in the center, but I get the chance to make this my own when I make the card. So there's two versions of basically the same card. So thank you to those of you who watched the replay. I appreciate it. I'm back on Wednesday this week with a fun 3D project. Stay tuned for more information. Take good care. Bye for now and have a happy Halloween.